There we go. So John, do you want to just start? Because obviously flu vax is going to be a hot topic come this summer. There's lots of questions flying around. So I think just to start this session, it's worth John sort of introducing some of our thoughts, some of our difficulties, and alongside Will talking about what sorts of things we've got in mind and where we're looking to go to try and make it as easy as possible for all you guys out there in the wild come this winter.
Okay, so thanks, Matt. I think for many practices, they've been dealing with very large numbers of flu vax for many years. So this perhaps is not quite as an important topic for some, but of course the time that it's going to take to do the flu vaccinations is going to be considerable, I guess, and the problems of PPE and so on. But with the prospect of doing the 50 plus vaccines in a later wave, it seems to be the current advice that they want to get the shielded patients and more vulnerable patients vaccinated early. I mean, we've had various conversations with NHSX, NHS Digital, and I'm not sure there is a standard plan, certainly not one that I'm privy to at the moment. But it ranges from whether just doing more clinics in the GP surgery or the IKEA car park solution, where presumably on the way they've been doing the COVID testing, people would drive into a drive-in flu vaccination clinic, and that has its own particular problems. I don't know if you've seen, there's been some reports on Twitter of an award-winning solution using barcodes to help retrieve the right patient record. Because all of this functionality is actually in SystmOne. You can create NHS number barcodes using forms in SystmOne, and they could be sent out to patients in letters in order for them to bring that in to identify themselves. And that would work in the GP environment. But I'm not altogether sure what it really brings you, especially if you're going to do the majority of your call recall, hopefully by SMS or possibly by email. So I think the point I was going to add is that you're probably well aware that if you create an appointment list with very short duration appointments for your flu vax, patients can book into those. They could book into them via AirMid or other patient-facing services, of course. And at the end of the session, you can bulk add the flu vaccination together with the relevant batch number and so on. There's quite a nice way of doing it differently if you wanted to, if you don't want to use appointments, that as the patient comes into the room, you retrieve the record, you check that you've got the right person in front of you, and from a protocol, you then add the flu jab automatically. That gives you the opportunity, obviously, for checking if there are any allergies, but the protocol would actually make that a very slick operation. So you just have to OK the protocol and save the record, and you're done and moving on to the next patient. While I'm on that subject, of course, the Control F10 function in SystmOne does allow you to find people living in the same address. And they've slipped this in recently, the idea that you will need to vaccinate household members of shielded patients. And that's something that is giving us a little bit of thought about at the moment, how we can improve the finding of shielded patient household members, and we'll be posting something about that later. Moving on to the car park idea, we've had discussions around this. I don't think there is a perfect solution, but we could, of course, make available a bland community unit which could be used to run the vaccinations. If the community unit is available to retrieve the shared record, then patients could be quickly registered and the flu jab recorded in the community unit. If sharing out, it would flow back into the GP record automatically, and we could use some of the GP Connect functionality to send information to EMIS systems automatically in the background as well. And if anybody is contemplating that approach, then I think it'd probably be a good idea to get in touch with us so we can have some more information about that. But certainly the time is now for GP Connect to be useful, both in terms of the direct EMIS integration, so you could see the patient record if you wanted to check for allergies before immunisation, and also for the sending of the completed vaccination. Interestingly, of course, this will now be the second vaccine season that we've had access, or that we've had the ability to receive structured vaccine messages from pharmacies. And now all pharmacy systems will be able to do this for this season. So where a patient elects to go to the pharmacy, or pharmacies are commissioned to do more vaccinations, where it's a SystmOne patient, the result will come through automatically into SystmOne. It can be processed, and the vaccine can be automatically added as a vaccine item into SystmOne. And I hope that that will actually be a really useful feature this year. So I think, just to summarise where we've got to, we're not quite clear what the ask is at this stage. Obviously, if people are wanting to do appointments, it's easier to do it in the GP surgery situation. The idea of running appointments in a separate community hub will be quite complicated because of the very large numbers of people who would be wanting to make those appointments, or whether you just send out letters giving people different time bands to attend. I'm sure most of you are very familiar with the functionality you'd need to use for that, but we will produce a paper in the next week to highlight the possibles, and be interested to hear your feedback as to what you're planning.